2021 is drawing to a close, and since this year is drawing to a close, I thought I'd go through all the Nintendo Switch releases that really rounded out this year. Disclaimer, I am not going through every single release for 2021. I may even miss a lot of your favorite games. I am also going to mention some of the biggest changes that came to the Nintendo Switch. So these picks are my opinion on what really rounded out this year. With that being said, let's get into it. Starting off the year, on February 12th of 2021, we had Super Mario World plus Bowser's Fury. This is yet again another Wii U port that came over to the Nintendo Switch. And of course, like all Wii U ports that come to Switch, it did so much better on Switch than it ever did on Wii U. I mean, the problem is the Wii U just didn't have an audience, and it never sold enough, so I mean, this was kind of a dead console, so you kind of have to port everything over to the Nintendo Switch. At least everything that would sell well. And a Mario game would definitely sell well on the Nintendo Switch. I mean, of course it would. It's Mario. And when this released, we didn't really have very many purely Mario games on the Nintendo Switch. We had Mario Kart, or Mario plus Rabbids, or something like that, but not purely Mario. Not since Mario Odyssey. This game was really a hidden gem on the Nintendo Switch when it came out, so it really needed to be pushed into the light. This is a very well constructed Mario game. The levels are just incredible, and every level feels completely different from the last. It really does feel like they threw every single idea at the wall and just made it into a Mario game, and I have no problem with that. That definitely worked to its benefit, because every Mario game like this usually feels the same. I'm talking more like Super Mario Bros., New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and stuff like that. Mario games in this art style usually feel the same, but with this game, it really reinvented itself. There were so many different power-ups and so many different ideas that it was everything that I ever wanted something like New Super Mario Bros. U to be like. Just a little change of pace. Oh yeah, and speaking of changing the pace, Peach doesn't get kidnapped in this game. Thank God. Instead, it's just a few different princesses, which is totally fine. I mean, you need some incentive to go on this journey. Might as well do that. This game is really like no other. It really isn't like any Mario game that I've ever played before, because there are so many different ideas in so many different levels that it really doesn't feel like a copy and paste. It really just feels like its own standalone Mario experience. Oh yeah, and there's also Bowser's Fury. That is completely separate from 3D World. The art style is different. It's more of a sandbox type, like something like Mario Odyssey, and it has its own little mini storyline. So go ahead and do yourself a favor, this is well worth your while. Next, on March 26th, we had Monster Hunter Rise. This was the first Monster Hunter game that was solely on Switch. I mean, until it wasn't, but it was on Switch when it initially launched. This game really has a lot of the Monster Hunter flair that you come to expect. So, just because it's a Nintendo Switch game doesn't mean it lost its identity. It's the same old game that you know. You just hunt monsters, level up your character, get better weapons, stuff like that. This game was a huge sensation when it first came out. Like, this game was selling out everywhere. Don't ask me why though, because I would have no idea. I didn't even know Monster Hunter was that big of an IP. This game is fantastic if you like RPGs. On June 11th, we had Game Builder Garage. This is basically just Mario Maker, but without Mario. It's a little more complicated than that, so let me explain. You basically just make your own games. Well, how do you do that? You are sent into a space where you're allowed to put down many different game elements. You have many different characters, game elements, and objects, and all those game elements are placed in their own separate object. And you can place all this stuff on what I'm going to call the game blueprint. And from these objects, you can customize them to your heart's desire. For instance, how a character moves, or how an object behaves. And once you're done in your little blueprint area, you can go out and see how the game looks when people actually play it. I really wish this game got talked about more, but since Mario Maker already exists, people already know what that is, so they're more appealed to that. With this is a new IP, so people are a little more hesitant. It still doesn't mean this game gets to get overshadowed. This game is still great, and even though it has a very, very long tutorial, it is still worth your time. Also in June, we had Mario Golf Super Rush. This is one of the games that I bought very close to its launch. Like, I really wanted to play this game. I had always wanted to play a Mario sports game, so when this game came out, I was super excited. But honestly, when I got the game, I was a little underwhelmed. It was lacking a lot of content, there wasn't as much modes as I wanted, and there wasn't a lot of things that keep me coming back. But over the next 6 months, this game really transformed into something that I'd actually want to play a lot. There are now lots of different maps and characters that weren't initially in the game. I wish they would have put these things in earlier, but I really can't complain too much since they are here now. But just on launch, this game was just so underwhelming. It felt really half-assed, and then for them to just continually add stuff in afterward really felt like they rushed it to begin with, and then they're just like, okay, we rushed it, so let's just fix it later. Like, that's not how you make a game. Come on, Nintendo. I think this game is perfectly fine now. I guess that's all that matters. On July 16th, we had The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. This was another old Legend of Zelda game that got an HD remaster. This had happened before, most notably with the Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U. And now this time they were putting a Wii game on the Nintendo Switch. And usually with putting a Wii game on any other platform, you usually have to take out motion controls. Motion controls are usually the big hurdle. But with this game, and since it was Zelda, they did it, and it works really well. And of course you can use motion controls with the Joy-Cons. You just now have the option to use either or. So that's always nice. Now, since this game is 10 years old, and in a 4:3 aspect ratio, they had to revamp it a little bit, and they had to upscale the visuals and stretch out the aspect ratio, so now it looks really, really good. Stacked up against more modern games on the Switch, it looks really good. I can't really tell you much about the game itself, because I haven't played it, and I probably never will play it because I'm not really a Zelda fan, but I can assure you from what I've looked at, it looks good. This was a part of the Legend of Zelda 35th anniversary. These Joy-Cons were also a part of the 35th anniversary. When these Joy-Cons first came out, they were really hard to find. It seems like these were sold out instantaneously. But nowadays, if you want them, you can buy them. It seems like the initial panic of these being limited went away. The next game I want to talk about is No More Heroes 3, which came out on August 27th. The No More Heroes franchise hasn't had a new game since 2010, so this was really strange and interesting to have a new installment almost 10 years later. Usually when a game wants to have a new installment years later, it usually doesn't turn out very well, or it gets really mixed reviews, and this game seemed to have option number 2. It seemed to get decent Metacritic reviews and above average user score, so I would say it's a middle of the road type of game. The game brought enough new ideas for it to be worthwhile, but it wasn't really amazing. On September 10th of 2021, WarioWare Get It Together came out. This game seemed to receive pretty decent reviews that were pretty similar to No More Heroes 3. People seemed to not absolutely love it, but it was pretty good for a series that hasn't been around for a very long time. See, my main worry with this game was that all these minigames would be pretty boring, and that's all WarioWare is. Like, do you really want to spend $40, $50 on WarioWare when all it is a collection of minigames? I mean, they would be really, really good minigames, but still. Also, WarioWare kind of get close with that release date, don't you think? I mean, you couldn't release it on But I mean, this is cutting it close. Still kind of a yikes. I haven't got this one yet because I haven't really been able to buy many games throughout 2021, but I picked up a few, and I will get this one eventually. Now that I think about it, I haven't been able to pick up No More Heroes 3 either. Speaking of which, all the games further on this list will be games that I want, but haven't gotten yet, except for the last one. Anyway, on September 27th of 2021, Hot Wheels Unleashed got released. A Hot Wheels racing game. Very interesting. Hot Wheels hasn't really had a very big market recently, but apparently they thought it was a good enough idea to make it into a game and then release it. I was very pleasantly surprised by all the trailers and stuff released, so when I finally get this game, I feel like I'm really gonna like it. It has kind of that basic Hot Wheels charm, but of course it's in a new medium. It looks like a very charming racing game, but also a very basic one. October. A lot of shit happened in October. On October 6th, Metroid Red and the Nintendo Switch Oled came out. Metroid is a franchise that has been dormant for a long time. There hasn't really been a big Metroid release since the re-release of the first 3 games on the Wii. And now we have a big Metroid release, but it may not be the one that most people wanted, i.e. a Metroid Prime 4. But Metroid Red was a much more logical option because people really wanted a Metroid Prime 4 when they said outright that they weren't going to do that. So we got Metroid Red instead, and people actually weren't disappointed. This game got really good reviews and a lot of praise from fans. This may have not been the Metroid game that people wanted, but they were pleasantly surprised. I, for one, was very surprised. This game looks great, it plays great, and it's really fast-paced, which I love, but at some points this game is brutally difficult, especially with some of the bosses, but I see that more as a challenge and not really as a detriment. With the time that I spent with this game, it was extremely good, and like I said, also along with the launch of this game, there was the Switch Oled. The Nintendo Switch Oled was pretty much Nintendo's answer to all those people that wanted a Nintendo Switch Pro. And yet again, they didn't really meet expectations. Nintendo likes to underdo most of their consoles, so this is pretty typical of them. Yeah, our expectations for the Nintendo Switch Pro were really high, but for Nintendo to meet us halfway wouldn't have been that big of a deal. They could have upped the resolution in handheld to 1080p. They could have upped the frame rate just a little. They could have upped the Switch's battery life and fixed those fucking Joy-Cons. All you have to do is fix the Joy-Cons. All you have to do is make them not drift. How hard is it to make it so those things don't fucking drift? Please, fix those. But hey, we got a LAN port so we can do Ethernet. Yay! That'll be $50 extra. As you can tell, I'm not really a big fan of the Switch OLED. It's not really worth it. All they did was make the screen a little clearer. That's it. But the disappointment doesn't stop there. On October 25th, we got the Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack. Goody! See, I'm a lot more salty about the Nintendo Switch OLED and the expansion pack now in hindsight after I know how those things turned out. So, the Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack was Nintendo's answer to everyone that wanted more systems added to NSO. And how did that turn out? Not good. Mainly because the price was crap and the games were crap. The price was more than double what it used to be, and the games were not very well emulated. And also, this isn't showing much promise because it's been months and we haven't gotten very many games added. So it feels like to me they just did this to shut us up, and they're not really planning to do much with this expansion pack. I mean, and if they feel like they have to do something, they're going to do the bare minimum. That's a really bad outlook, but I can't see it going any different from the past. 4 days later, on October 29th, Mario Party Superstars came out. This is the Mario Party that I've always wanted. This is the Mario Party that there should have been years ago instead of that fucking monstrosity. Get that shit off my screen. Right now. Right now. Off. 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 This game had really good mechanics, really good boards, and really good minigames. Why didn't they do this before? This is the Mario Party that the Nintendo Switch deserves. This is the Mario Party that we deserve. This is the Mario Party that the fans deserve. This is by far the best Mario Party on Switch. It's just a shame that it took them 2 tries to get it right. On November 4th, 2021, Just Dance 2022 came out. I asked for this game for Christmas for some reason. I guess I could have got something like Luigi's Mansion or some shit. I mean, this game is like any other Just Dance game. There are 30 of the quote-unquote best songs of 2021 on here. This game isn't really special in any other way. It's just another Just Dance. You know, at some point, we're gonna get oversaturated with Just Dance games. Someday, that day will come. I don't know when, but probably very soon. I put this game on here just because there wasn't really much that came out this year, just like last year. The last game I want to mention is Shemagami Tensai 5. I wasn't really into this game personally, but it was one of the best games that ended out the year. This was a really good, hard-as-nails JRPG. From what I've heard, the story is really good, the world is really good, so if you are up for a bit of a challenge, you could get this game. So that was it for the major releases for 2021. Or at least the ones I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed this little retrospective on the year, and I will see you in the next one.